Assalamualaikum, a very good afternoon, good morning to some parts of the world. A warm welcome to everyone to this special Women in Leadership Choose to Challenge webinar organized in partnership with Standard Chartered Malaysia and the British Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, BMCC. My name is Mastura Adnan, I'm from Standard Chartered, and I will be your host for today. Without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Jennifer Lopez, Chief Executive Officer, BMCC, to deliver her welcome speech.
Hello everyone, a very good afternoon, and for those who are tuning in from the UK, good morning to all of you. Welcome to the BMCC International Women's Day webinar, Women in Leadership Choose to Challenge, organized in partnership with Standard Chartered Malaysia, Managing Director of Standard Chartered Malaysia, who will be joining us shortly to say a few words. We are excited and delighted this afternoon to have a stellar panel of speakers comprising 5 amazing women leaders with wonderful stories to share about their life journeys and career experiences. On behalf of the BMCC, I would like to convey our sincerest appreciation to these esteemed leaders whose valuable insights and words of advice will undoubtedly be an inspiration to all our audience, especially the younger leaders striving to achieve their fullest potential. Ladies and gentlemen, diversity and inclusion, which encompass not only gender equality, also inclusivity and equality for all, is a key agenda for the BMCC, as well as our members. Leading organizations championing a diversity and inclusion culture are already implementing various diversity and inclusion and women empowerment programs. Indeed, women empowerment has become a significant topic of discussion within economics as well as political and social development today. It was reported in November last year that approximately 17.2% of board seats in Malaysia's public listed companies are filled by women. While this is an improvement from the 6.5% representation of women on boards in 2015, the question we need to ask is the agenda enough or progressing fast enough? How far is women empowerment ingrained as part of the corporate DNA and culture? Is unconscious bias being addressed? Are all stakeholders in the ecosystem, including women ourselves, doing enough and taking action? As a chamber, we will continue to advocate this agenda together with our members and the relevant stakeholders. We have included a Diversity and Inclusion Award in our Business Excellence Awards, and we plan to rejuvenate the Women Leadership Network as a diversity and inclusion interest group to bring together like-minded and strong-willed leaders, both women and men, to identify programs, initiatives to inspire, empower, and advocate. For me, as a women leader myself, I'm a daughter, a wife, and a mother of 3 children, 2 of them girls. The International Women's Day theme this year, Choose to Challenge, resonates well. We, as a women, need to lean in, take lead, support each other, and choose to challenge. Especially to all the young future leaders here today watching, be brave, challenge yourself to make a difference. The barriers and challenges are definitely fewer compared to 50 years ago, but I am positive. With your confidence to challenge and support each other, they can largely or even completely overcome 50 years from now, not only for women, but for all proponents of diversity and the inclusion agenda. Let us choose to challenge and make a difference. With that, let me conclude by expressing our appreciation once again to our speakers, not forgetting our webinar partner, Standard Chartered Malaysia, for this collaboration. Thank you to all participants joining us. I wish you all an enjoyable and inspiring session. Over to you, Mastura.
Thank you, Jennifer. And now, I would like to invite Mr. Abrar Anwar, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Standard Chartered Malaysia and Chairman BMCC, to deliver his keynote remarks.
Thank you, Mastura. Welcome and good afternoon. We are delighted to have all of you with us today for our online event, Women in Leadership, Choose to Challenge webinar, in conjunction with International Women's Day. Thank you for joining us, and I know this will be an engaging and interesting session with a stellar panel of women leaders. A big thank you to our panelists for their time. Today, recognition of women's contribution has gained much traction. Everybody wins when women are included and given equal opportunities at work. Gender discrimination in the workforce costs the world $12 trillion annually, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. This year's International Women's Day theme, Choose to Challenge, resonates with Standard Chartered's purpose and culture, where we view diversity, inclusion, and respect for all our colleagues and partners as critical to our success. Our commitment to help women to live better lives remains constant. We champion many programs internally and externally to help girls and women develop skills through purposeful collaboration, where we can help them advance and unleash their limitless potential. More than half of our colleagues in Standard Chartered Malaysia are women, and we are very proud that our chairman is Datuk Evan Chia, one of the nation's top women leaders. Our executive committee members comprise 42% women, while in Standard Chartered Global Business Services in Malaysia, we have doubled our women board representation in the past 2 years to 40% and added 24 women colleagues to our local leadership council. We continuously challenge ourselves to do all we can to support our female colleagues' careers and aspirations. To nurture more talents and enhance our female colleagues' capabilities, we ensure leaders have at least one female successor in their plans. We enhance this by having a mentoring program where we pair our future female leaders with our executive committee members. We are also a corporate member of the 30% Club Malaysia, a global business-led campaign focusing to increase the representation of women on boards and in senior leadership positions. Globally, in April 2018, we signed a statement of support for the United Nations Women Empowerment Principles in support of women in the workplace, marketplace, and community. Striving to be the best place to bank, we onboarded a total of 18 women entrepreneurs under our Vaunita program that aims to help grow and nurture them towards success by providing thought leadership, financial education, solutions, and networking opportunities. We also have a total of more than 24 women-owned vendors to date under our supply chain initiative to support local women entrepreneurs, a target we set since 2018. Last year, during the pandemic, we reached over 150 women entrepreneurs through our Education for Entrepreneurs program, known as E4E. Close to 50% of our social entrepreneurs, transformation, innovation, and acceleration CETIA program participants were women. CETIA is our initiative in collaboration with Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Center, known as MAGIC, to enhance capacity building of 50 selected social entrepreneurs through mentoring and business coaching. GOAL, which marks its 4th year in Malaysia today, is a program that aims to empower adults and girls with the confidence, knowledge, and skills to fulfill their potential. Together with our implementation partner, Women Girls, we are very proud to highlight that we have reached over 7,000 schoolgirls nationwide since its launch. Ladies and gentlemen, gender diversity and inclusion is fundamental to delivering on our brand promise, here for good. We are committed to support women empowerment, extending not just to our employees, but also to our clients and the women in the communities in which we operate. Women in Malaysia today are better educated and better informed than previous generations. They are valued contributors to our communities, the corporate world, and society at large. They have equal access as men to work, education, and healthcare. However, more can be done, such as supporting women in the workplace and empowering women to take better control of their finances, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. More can also be done in terms of better work-life balance. So let's all think about how we can choose to challenge towards a gender-equal world. Before I end my speech, allow me to congratulate all of the amazing ladies and gentlemen on this webinar and our panelists for all their many and varied achievements. I urge you to continue your work and your efforts. Last but not the least, I would like to acknowledge the huge contribution of some amazing women in my personal life, and they are my wife, my mother, daughter, and 4 sisters. Let's all raise our hands and choose to challenge the status quo, sharing experiences and taking practical steps for progress together. Thank you and have an enjoyable session. Thank you.
Thank you, Abrar. Amazing and inspiring as always. Before we start our panel session, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of housekeeping to everyone. We will have a Q&A session during the last 15 minutes of the panel session. If you have any question, please submit via the Q&A icon, which is available at the right bottom bar. Please do not use the chat box to submit your question, else we'll miss it. We will try our best to take them all if time permits. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you the stellar panel of ladies who will be discussing the topic Empowering Women, Lessons from COVID-19 and Beyond. We have, all the way from the UK, Dr. Amalina Bakri, General Surgeon, Registrar, and a Clinical Research Fellow at the Institute of Global Health Innovation, Department of Surgery and Cancer, Imperial College London. Did you know that she still holds the record of the most one is scored in SPM 2004 in all 17 subjects? Still very inspiring. We also have Dr. Sumitra Nair, Vice President and Head of Digital Skills and Jobs, Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC, Patrina Tang, Co-founder and Director, Ted Boy Bakery, Lau Ngai Yuan, Founder of Women Girls, and my colleague, our moderator today, Darina Yusof, Country Chief Risk Officer, Standard Chartered Bank. Darina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mastura, and a very good day to everyone, and thank you for tuning in. As COVID-19 continues to disrupt the global economy and our communities, it is becoming increasingly more evident that the pandemic is affecting women and men differently. Women are impacted disproportionately more. According to the United Nations Global Compact, 70% of healthcare workers risking their lives are women. 60% of women employment is in an informal economy where there is no real protection against dismissal and limited access to social protection. The global gender pay gap is stuck at 16%, leaving women more vulnerable to economic downturn. Domestic violence has increased by upwards of 25% in some countries as a result of the lockdown. In a pre-COVID world, women were already doing 3 times more unpaid care work versus men. With the virus spreading and 850 million children around the world now going to school from home, the additional home care burden continues to fall primarily on women. With this background, I am particularly proud to work in Standard Chartered. We're passionate about promoting equality in the workplace and have a number of policies and commitments to support women. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm privileged to be able to host these amazing women, as introduced earlier. Dr. Amalina Bakri, welcome. Dr. Sumitra Nair, welcome. Ms. Lau Ngai Yuen is with me here, and Ms. Patrina Tang is also here. We're here to discuss today's topic of empowering women, lessons from COVID-19 and beyond. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My first question is for you, Dr. Amalina. Tell us how you are seeing this pandemic play out in the UK, and what is the impact on women you're seeing, especially from your medical perspective?
Good morning and good afternoon to those in Malaysia. Thank you very much for having me today. I just want to make a correction, what Masra said before. So someone actually broke my record in 2007. So I think someone called Azali Azlan got 21 A's in his SPM, exam. So yeah, so someone did actually break my record. So yeah, so back to the question. So based on the data from Office of National Statistics, so while more men died from COVID-19, women's well-being was more negatively affected than men. So I think financial, economic, health and well-being impact due to COVID-19 all interlinked with each other. So as we know that there's a consistently greater number of women than men have been furloughed because of the pandemic, and women are consistently spend more time on unpaid childcare and unpaid household work throughout the whole of the pandemic. And if they are working, there's a greater potential for women to be exposed to health risks due to the natural role of their, the natural role that of being a key worker, for example, because a lot of women who are working are mostly in the front line. And in the UK, 60% of the employed women in the UK are key workers, so in the roles that have a high level of social contact with people. So in that case, for example, a lot of women are working as nurses, as teachers. So we know that these women also care for children and their relatives. So with the added stress of worrying about whether they were to contract coronavirus, or how the household is going to cope, and the stress of looking after children while working at the same time. So with all of these different factors interlinked with each other, and that will also affect their mental health and well-being. And which is reported recently in the survey in the UK, that women reported higher anxiety, depression, and loneliness than men in the UK. And for example, for the BAME community, so in the UK, the Black, Asian, and minority ethnic community are disproportionately affected by the pandemic. And around 2 in 5 people said that they were finding that social isolation and also, being alone by themselves is, difficult to cope with. And life satisfaction and happiness were the lowest especially for BAME women specifically. So women are also more at risk of domestic violence during the lockdown situation. And so just to give you a little bit of overview as well from the career in medicine perspective. And so there was a report published by Lancet at the end of last year. And the report suggested that the pandemic may increase the pay gap in the healthcare sector, and especially for those who have to take time off, because, especially that women tend to look after their children more than men, and most of whom, they need to be taking time off work to look after children because there's no childcare services provided. So that may increase, the gender pay gap and even further. And the pay gap is wider for women in minority ethnic groups in comparison to white women, for example. And the groups most affected are Pakistani and Bangladeshi women with pay gaps of about 30% or more. So, this is, a huge issue. And we also need to know that, from the report published by the UN, despite having a large number of women in healthcare sector, and only 30% of women are in leadership roles. So that tells a lot. So we definitely need to address these issues urgently in order for us to achieve a more equal world post-pandemic.
Thank you, Dr. Amalina. I think we definitely have our work cut out for us. My next question is for Yuan. Yuan, you're the founder of a women's focused NGO and a passionate woman empowerment advocate yourself. What is your perspective on today's landscape, and how are you seeing this affect the communities in Malaysia, especially for women and the young girls?
You know, just listening to your opening, and then after that, listening to what Dr. Amalina was saying, women and girls are really stressed out, to be really honest. When we say #stay home, a lot of people's home, especially when you are not from the very privileged background, is really quite different. It's not exactly a sanctuary you kind of imagine like your own home, for example. So you may not be able to understand that the stress that they are with, and then suddenly now they're dealing with so much more FaceTime with people that they call families, or so much more FaceTime with people they may not see so much on a daily basis. So there is that heightened number of domestic violence. There is so much more conversations on various different kinds of levels of abuse, whether it is emotional or sexual or physical. And of course, there is that conversation that a lot more people are getting pregnant. You see from the celebrity Instagram side, it's like, whoa, it's glamorous. But on ground, I think that glamour is missing. There is that cry for help, but where do you go? Who do you go to? And conversations are consistently about, oh, how do we deal with the pandemic? How we need to stay at home, how we need to not come out. But it is not that kind of situation for a lot of people. It is not the same kind of support that they have access to. For instance, before, you may have other women coming to you and giving you support and telling you things and giving you that kind of encouragement, or giving you solutions for things, or helping you out. But in the pandemic, women are literally left alone to deal with all these kind of uncertainties and all these kind of various different issues that they may not be able to deal with themselves alone.
Yep.
So where are these conversations happening? Girls aren't having these conversations properly with the schools. Online schooling, online learning from school, at home. We all know it's difficult. Not only are we dealing with connectivity that's limited, we're dealing with gadgets that may be shared across maybe 5 children. We're also talking about, catching up with homeworks and exams. And now we're not even having conversations to deal with things that you are thinking. Are there boyfriend's issues, girlfriend issues, social media? What sort of communications or what sort of social interaction you've been having? How is the world going to be like tomorrow? What kind of future are we talking about? If you miss a couple of months before you sit for SPM, how is that changing the way your career is going to pan out? That extra few months, who is talking about those things? I think these are questions that we're not answering enough, and for women and girls not having enough outlet to go to, very clear outlet to have this conversation with. And also 1 year in after the start of the pandemic, we still haven't gotten very clear idea of how women can really take charge and lead in terms of post-recovery. So these are a conversation we must have. We haven't even talked about vaccination, where can women leaders at the community level do something instead of just logging into MySejahtera, for example? There must be more things that we can do so that we can actually live think about, and that's my plea to as many people as possible.
So Yuan, I hear you about the increasing divergence of the poor, of the people who are struggling to get by. And this happens, and this is playing out not just between women and girls, those who have and those who have not, but also in businesses. And we see this, and I'd like to hear the views, Petrina, of yours. Because you're running your businesses, you must be seeing the impact of this pandemic on your business activities. As a woman entrepreneur yourself, could you share with us how this is impacting your own business?
Wow, the whole pandemic has really put a strain into our business. A lot of businesses in Malaysia are badly hit. Myself being in F&B, retail, needless to say, we totally plunged overnight 80% of the sales, right? Because during MCO, everyone is instructed to stay at home. So locations within the malls will totally see no footfall, right? And then we are also present in office towers, corporate office towers, and MNCs are encouraging people to work from home. So then you have no footfall again. So then we really had to quickly relook and adapt our business model and how we need to pull back our people from the stores that are underperforming and then giving them alternative roles. And they really stepped up. You know, we built a task force of these few key people, and it's like, we need to survive, right? Because some of them, of our colleagues, their spouses has already lost their jobs. You know, it's the only thing that they have left. So we had to really pivot the business, move quicker into online space. Thankfully, we already built an e-commerce platform maybe 3 years back, so that helped us a bit to move forward. And then as the central kitchen is a bit quieter, we focus on product development so that when the market picks up again, we're ready with a new range of products, right? Other than the business challenges, as the leader of the company, I also have to ensure that my people stay motivated, yeah? So they have to be constantly uplifted, so we've got to find new inspiration for them, new things to learn, to talk about, right? And then being a working mother, and then the challenges of online learning, it's all compounded. So it's been a really tough year. You know, who knew that the pandemic will last beyond 3 months, right? But at least for the past 2 weeks, we see an uptrend as MCO is lifted in Malaysia. So hopefully with the vaccine and all, things are on a positive note. So I hope I bring everybody with me to the end, yeah, and I'm not leaving anyone behind. We have not lost any employees so far yet, so thankful for that. Yeah.
Thank you, Petrina. I'm glad to hear I'm not the only one with a con call in one ear and a spatula in the other, and putting my video off so that nobody at work can see that I've got a spatula in my hand. On that note, Dr. Sumitra, I'd love to hear your perspective as well. Why do you think it's important to hear the woman's voice in this time of crisis?
Thanks for that, Arina. You know, first of all, I have to say that I think women's voices should be heard regardless, whether it is in a situation of crisis or otherwise. It should be heard. And from time immemorial, if you think about it, that, you know, the male and female aspects, the yin and the yang, that always comes together. And in order for us to strike a balance and to come up with the most creative and the most inclusive solutions to this crisis, we need to hear from both sexes, right? Both are important. In fact, not just, you know, as we said in the beginning, it's not just gender diversity, but all kinds of diversity are important for us because all of us make up the whole collectively. In Malaysia, of course, women make up more than 49% of the population. That's close to half, you know. And that's, if you think about it, that's half the customers you have. That's half your employees. That's half your students, right? And so the other half really does matter. And we really need to take that into account as we move forward. And while the pandemic has been tough, has been painful to vulnerable groups, including, of course, women, I like to also take a slightly, I like to look at the silver lining, right? The half full perspective to this. Now, with the pandemic, and of course, coming from the organization that I do, which is the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, people are no longer asking, you know, why do I need to go digital? It just is, how do I get digital, right? And in this increasingly digital world, if you have read the Future of Jobs report, you'll find that many of the skills that are listed in what is going to be important in the future of jobs, women inherently have. Those are our strengths, you know. We are multitaskers, you know, talking about spatulas in one hand and you know, video conferencing in the other. We are inherent multitaskers. We are problem solvers, right? And we are highly resilient. And these are all skills that are going to be, and that are becoming increasingly important in this increasingly technology and digital world, and we need to play that to our advantage. And that's why women must speak up. And I think although we have all these things going for us, many of us are very modest. Many of us are very humble. Too humble sometimes. And I'm sure the people on the call panel would have seen this, and we've all talked about it, right, in the past in meetings, right? Do you consciously take the seat at the front, the main table, or do you sit on the second row? Yeah. Do you voice out your opinion if you have an opinion, or do you just think, oh, somebody else will have a better opinion, or I will be judged, or things like that? And I think that's where the choosing to challenge becomes important. That's where standing up, speaking up, being seen, being heard, all that is really important, because we really have the skills to make a difference. We really do. And we can add value. And if you think about even relating to the work that we do at MDEC, we run lots of programs on digital entrepreneurship, on digital freelancing, and so on and so forth. And I must say that about close to 60%, so more than half of the women that we see in these programs, more than half of the participants in this program are women. They are stepping forward. It's not easy. I've met women from rural areas, from the lower income groups. It's not easy, but if we can support each other and get each other out of our comfort zone, it can happen, right? It takes practice, like everything. Practice makes perfect. We've seen even with young girls, right? Of course, we talk about girls in STEM, and there's not enough. We need more of them. But even with young girls, I've seen many of them with the right family support, with their teachers supporting them. They've come out to win not just national competitions, but even regional and global competitions. People like Dr. Amalina, for example, is a true inspiration, to this. And we all need to do our part. We need to, and that must start at home. That must start in our offices, and that must start in school. So I think I'm just going to stop there for now. But yeah, I tend to look at this from a half full rather than a half empty point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sumita. I agree with you. The digital conversation is not whether to go or not to go, but to how. And why the voices and the conversations are important. And Dr. Amalina, I know you've got almost 1 million followers on your Instagram page, and you certainly have a voice which is desired to be heard and is influential amongst those young, in our communities. I'd like to talk a little bit about the health and safety aspects for women and impact of COVID for women, and how communities are moving forward. What are the right steps, do you think, that the UK government, for example, has taken that can benefit those of us who are in another part of the world, in Malaysia, and what are some lessons that you've learned from your experiences there?
So there are strategies launched by the UK government to achieve a more equal world, first not only related to COVID, but also non-COVID issues. As I mentioned before, the BAME community especially is proportionately affected by COVID, particularly women in general, and the UK government launched a public inquiry examine the structural and socio-economic factors within the society and the NHS, which is our public health sector, in order to address the issues. For example, in the NHS where I work, if you are in high risk of catching COVID and get severely impacted by COVID, and changes will be made to your day-to-day working environment, to reduce your risk of catching COVID and remove you from patient-facing work and relocate you to low-risk job within the organization. So in terms of mental health, there are many helplines available either from the government agencies or NGOs, to provide mental health support and well-being to all these women, and also NHS healthcare workers who are mainly women. So where I work, for example, there is a huge support network for healthcare workers. So we get free yoga lessons, online hospital, and to look after our well-being and as well as our mental health. And mental health particularly is something that the UK government actually takes very seriously, and they have also announced a further 79 million pounds of investment on mental health, especially for young people, because we know that lots of young people are struggling, either boys or girls, especially not being able to go to school because of the pandemic, due to lockdown, and there is a surge of mental health issues among young girls and young boys. So recently, the UK government also launched the Women's Health Strategy to improve health outcomes for women and girls from all different communities. So these are a few of the themes that they're looking for to improve in terms of how can we then look after women better in terms of their healthcare. So first of all, like Dr. Sumitra mentioned before, is to listen to women's voices and make sure that we can place women at the center of their health and also care. So how the healthcare system should engage and listen to women at individual level as well as at a systematic level, and also improve the quality and accessibility of information and education on women's health. So women, need to be able to make decisions for their health, and they need to be able to, have health literacy. So the government, should have the initiative to increase health literacy as well as increasing awareness and understanding of women's health conditions among clinicians as well. So that is also important, not only involving women as the patient, but as well as women who work in the healthcare sector. And also, thirdly, is to ensure that the healthcare system understands and is responsive to women's health and care needs across the life course. So basically, supporting women to maximize their health across their lives and ensuring that services are designed to maximize benefits for women and girls, and maximizing women's health in the workplace as well. So we need to widen our understanding of how women's health issues can affect their workplace participation and outcomes. So in regards with female specific issues such as a lot of women probably having issues with anxiety and depression more than men, or conditions that's more prevalent in women, for example, musculoskeletal conditions or menopause. So all of these issues, specifically relating to women, that we need to try to support them going through that process, and because it is important, because as we know that women are increasing, a lot more women are now in the workforce participation. So we need to have that support network for these women, and ensuring that research and evidence and data support improvements in women's health. It's inclusion of women and women's health in research and data collection, and how that information is used, and driving participation in clinical trials, for example. So, for example, in the COVID trial, to find a vaccine, to test a vaccine in the UK, initially the trial was not done on women who are pregnant and breastfeeding women, and therefore we don't have enough data and evidence to actually encourage women to take the vaccine, because we don't have enough data. Although we know that from how the mechanism of vaccine, how it works, there's no evidence that it could cause any severe effects to women, especially if they are in high-risk category. But now, there's a lot more conversation that we need to include women in clinical trials, in research. So now they are going to be doing clinical trials on women who are pregnant and breastfeeding women, in order for us to get more data about the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine. So that is a positive thing. So understanding also responding to the impacts of COVID-19 on women's health and supporting women through the unique challenges that they have faced during the pandemic and try to make appropriate adjustments to address the issues. And the government should also work together with the private sector and in order for us to achieve all these different initiatives that's been launched recently.
Thank you, Dr. Amalina. It's clear that all aspects of the community must participate in this. In the old adage, it takes a whole village to raise a child. I think it takes everyone's participation to get us through where we are in COVID today. UN, how do you see the partnerships of government, NGOs, and our communities stepping up to this challenge of coping with this crisis, alluding to Dr. Amalina's observations on mental health and support networks?
So I actually think this is such a great opportunity for this to move forward. Actually, I really think that there's a great chance now, using the pandemic and the need for recovery, for post-recovery, to involve women a lot more. So for example, the vaccination call right now, the government is finding it increasingly difficult to rally on people to sign on, to register, to be vaccinated. But what they haven't done, and we've started to do already, alongside with the government, alongside with the communities, is to actually appoint and have women leaders from ground up to lead this movement, to get more people to register in the simplest way that they can. And these are the kind of partnership that we are beginning to see that is going to give women the much needed position and the much needed status in the society and community, that they are contributing properly. I mean, just a little retrace back, I think it's also important to just say that a lot of informal work that women have been doing, especially before, haven't been recognized. Just because women are doing businesses or participating as an entrepreneur or even participating as part of MDAC's various programs in digital the word that I think Dr. Sumitra was using earlier, you click and then you actually earn something from that. Those things are still considered extremely informal. I mean, people don't look at women and say that's work or that's career. They just like, oh, okay, you got extra 10 bucks today, or great, you brought in extra 100 ringgit, yay, you know, but they don't look at it and they don't recognize it properly. And it's about time that we recognize the importance of women's contribution, because that encouragement and that position and that status in the community is going to change a lot of things. And this change, we all know, is not going to be overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to be something that's going to start from first recognizing the contribution of women. And also we're putting in place, and we are now having more conversations around what are the other access that women will need and how do we address them. And we are looking at this one by one, because when we are going to as micro as reaching out to every single Malaysian, then men or women, you are going to count and you are going to matter. And I think because we're doing this because of the pandemic, it gives us that opportunity to really make sure that we can reach out, that we can give them the due recognition that they need, and therefore push equality that much more higher and that much more closer together. So here's hoping that the collaboration between the community is going to bring forth a lot more positioning for women and girls, and that is going to trailblaze new recognition for girls everywhere in the country. And I I have a really good feeling about this. It's still a lot of work to be done. I know Dr. Sumitra is working very hard on this. There are so many ministries, a part of this, being a part of this conversation. It is heartwarming to see that they finally realize, oh, we need wanita to help us move, this agenda. Yeah. So it's great. It's wonderful to finally see that. So we're moving somewhere. We're moving the needle. The pandemic helps us move the needle. So.
Thank you, Yen. Petrina, you alluded to the challenge of managing, and I'd like to delve a little bit more with you. Ted Boy has many branches across the Klang Valley. And I can only imagine how busy you are daily, from running the cafe, managing the staff, suppliers, attending to your customers, your family, your children. How do you manage your daily schedule and arrange for homeschooling at the same time?
I think just like what Dr. Sumitra said, I think women and mothers especially, we are all highly efficient creatures, right? And we are multitaskers. So the day starts early. I get up 6:15, I get the 2 elder kids ready for school, and then I'll come back for breakfast, check the emails and messages, because I run the operations as well. So every day, and when you're in a food business, every day it starts from zero, right? Anything can happen, can go wrong, in terms of distribution, product quality, etc. So after that, then I'll send my youngest boy, Max, he's only 2, to my in-laws. Thank goodness for Asian family support, right? So I have my dear mother-in-law who will look after him, and then I can get on with the daily hustle at work, right? We have to be very efficient at work. I don't have leisurely time. Usually lunch, it's a quick one at the cafe. I'll try to engage with all the team members, the management and production team. So if I get that done towards Thursday, Friday, I tend to do my rounds at the outlets. We're still not that large. We have only 10 stores across Klang Valley, so I try to rotate. I believe in really engaging with my people, not just knowing their names, but beyond their names. I want to know their background, their stories, their aspirations in life. Yeah, so in that sense, we will build a very strong network of working together, rather than just boss and staff, right? Yeah, the day typically ends at 8 p.m. and then you get to spend an hour of quality time with the kids, and then it's time to tuck them to bed, and the whole routine starts again. With the pandemic and working from home, homeschooling them, it was really a struggle. And I think, again, it tends to fall back to the women to guide the kids. I don't know why, right? And being young kids, they really can't focus for long hours in front of the screen. And with that, I think the spouse will then understand, especially for working parent, right, spouse, that, there's actually a lot on the plate. You've got to feed them, you've got to teach them, you've got to run a business, and then they appreciate us a bit more. So I think every woman has it in them to just rule the world. Yeah.
Girls rule the world.
Yeah.
But Dr. we shouldn't be expecting women to do it all, Come on, man. Step up. Yo.
Yeah, true.
Dr. Sumitra, changing tacks a little bit, MDEC is expecting 20% growth in e-commerce contribution to the digital economy. So many of us are stuck at home, needing a digital solution. It's not about why, it is about the how, as you alluded to earlier. What is MDEC's priority for 2021? And what's your advice for women looking to start a career in GovTech?
Thank you, Darina. I wish I could talk about my family like Katrina, but sounds like much more fun. But anyway, coming to the, it is a serious topic. And yes, MDEC is remaining focused on our charter and mandate. And, I must say it is a little bit easier somewhat because it's no longer an uphill battle to convince people, ministries, agencies, stakeholders that digital is something that we naturally have to get onto and leverage and use that to drive efficiency and productivity. Now for MDEC, of course, therefore, then we remain focused, and we remain focused on our strategic priorities, and we have 3 key ones. The first is to help businesses to go digital, so digitally powered businesses, be it non-tech businesses like Tech Boy, to become digital in their delivery and their back-end, front-end, and so on. But even to help to grow the local tech companies to become even bigger and to look at the export market. So digitally powered businesses is one area. The second area is to continue to draw digital investments. And of course, for us, the most important part for investments are jobs, especially right now when so many people have lost their jobs and companies have had to cut back on hiring and so on and so forth. So jobs are critical. And with that, our third area of focus is on digital skills and jobs. Yeah. Now, about more than 60% of employment in Malaysia is created by SMEs. Yet, about half of these SMEs who are now getting onto their digital journeys have actually expressed that their people are not sufficiently skilled. And so therefore, this is a really, really important issue for us to address, to look at how can we sufficiently reskill and upskill Malaysians quickly, to support their organizations and to support, whatever they're doing, their mandates to go digital. Because, in the current situation, that has become extremely important, right? So those are our three areas of focus, and we will remain focused on those areas. I think the big focus is also not just about technology for the sake of technology, but technology integration to what people need. Yeah, so integrating technology to societal needs. And that's part of what the My Digital Blueprint that was announced by the Prime Minister a few weeks ago, that's what it's about. It's about how do we integrate technology to help people, right? Now, the second question you mentioned about GovTech, I think we are somewhat blessed in Malaysia because in GovTech in Malaysia, there is, strong recognition and support for women. If you think about it, in MDEC itself, which is Malaysia Digital Economy, and so Gov and Tech is very much part of it. 4 out of the 7 top management members, that's close to 60%, are actually women, starting with our CEO, are all women. And if you go further than MDEC, you think of Magic, CEO is a woman. Cradle, CEO is a woman. The Secretary General of the Ministry of Science, as well as the Ministry of Entrepreneur Development, all women, the list goes on. So really, for some reason, the glass ceiling when it comes to GovTech doesn't seem as insurmountable, perhaps in other areas of technology. Now, what I find all of us have in common, women who are in GovTech, women leaders who are in GovTech, is the confidence and the courage to speak up and to be heard, right? To constantly speak our mind when it comes to, how can we make the country better? How can we solve problems in our community, in our organizations, amongst the beneficiaries of programs that government runs? How can we solve problems? That's always about that. Like, how can I help, right? And then not to be afraid to speak up and to be part of that solution and to drive those solutions, right? And that's why it is so important for all women, like this year's theme, to choose to challenge. We have to choose the challenge, the status quo and the norms that we have been brought up in, to challenge it and to say, no, we can make a difference. It is within our power, like what Petrina said, we were born to rule. And we do have that power, and we now need to use that power to our advantage to make our societies better as well. And so therefore, I welcome, the young women that are on the call. I welcome more of you to join GovTech, to join government, to join GovTech, because we need more of these women's voices to make the country a better place, to make the country a more happier and a stronger place for everyone, not just women. But it goes back to each and every one of us. So let's stand up and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit. I'd like to take a question that we've gotten from the floor. The only constant in today's world is change. And the pandemic is another change that we are all facing. Yasmin Latif has a question about women getting laid off, employers, businesses essentially going bust, and women just getting laid off. There just isn't any requirement for it, particularly in the hospitality area. Yuan, I'd like to take your views on this, given that you're coaching younger girls, adolescent women, to be adaptable to change, to see what the future may bring, and to have resilience through change. What is your message to the Gold Girls when you speak to them about what the future lies and how they prepare for an ever-changing future?
I think ever-changing future is what it is really. We need to embrace that change. And also it's very important to get them to understand that security should not be something that you expect from your work, from your job. I think it needs to be a different, you need to be looking for very different things when you're working. It needs to be satisfaction. It needs to be that your contribution. It needs to be that you're really adding value. Those things are really, really more important. So if something happened and it was unexpected, so you gotta like, okay, take a moment and then think about what can you do next with all that you already have, with all that you are already built with. I think that confidence and also the ability to embrace what you don't know, those are skills that need to increasingly be supported very much in the curriculum and also be spoken with into parenting, and also the children must have understanding of how that it is not about seeking security in the future. It's really about going with change and embracing and allowing yourself to do your best at all times. That's what it is.
Thanks. We have, I think, just about 8 to 10 minutes left. I do have a closing question I'd like each of our panelists to address. And keeping an eye on the future, I think we're all looking forward to a different future from what our last 12 months has been. Dr. Amalina, I'd like to start with you with this question of how do you imagine Malaysia, the world, or anywhere women are in to be like 10 years from now, women climbing the ladder in your respective areas, in medicine?
Yeah, so just to give you a little bit of statistics as well on the women's, from the Department of Statistics in Malaysia in 2016 to 17, women made about 51.9% of medical doctors. So we see a lot of women in healthcare in Malaysia. And with the right strategy and support, as what we've discussed today, I think in 10 years' time, we should see a lot more women in leadership roles, I hope, and also as well as other sectors as well, and reducing gender pay gap among women and men. I think general public is now more aware about gender inequality in workplace. And definitely it's something that people discuss about in public forum such as today, and what we can do to achieve equality. I think we are making a good progress. We're talking about it today, and if we continue to persevere and speak up, make people listen to you, and we also need men allies, so men should also be supporting our cause as well. And if you see something is wrong, don't be afraid to give your opinions. And it's not because we can't do it, but either because you want to do it or not. So it's a matter of you all need to get up your comfort zone, as what Sumitra said, and we should be speaking up and raising our voices so that people will be able to. You should be part of the conversation when it comes to leadership, as well as other issues that we should be discussing about either in medical sector or any other sectors in Malaysia or in anywhere in the world.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Sumitra, your views on the same question, please. Where do you see it 10 years from now?
Darina, I am optimistic and I'm hopeful, like Dr. Amalina. Especially also because I'm starting to see, I work with a lot of young people, the next generation, and I'm starting to see, especially perhaps maybe more so in urban areas, and this is something we need to extend to rural as well as to perhaps even some of the vulnerable groups. But I'm starting to see, at least in urban areas and segments, the younger boys, right, are seeming to have less of a hang-up over, girls, and they tend to have a more open view. And we need to encourage that, right? And that's where I think each of us as women, we can be our greatest advocate or we can be our greatest enemy to ourselves, right? and we have the power to choose. And if we choose wisely to be our greatest advocates, I believe that in 10 years, our futures will be very bright, and hopefully the world will be a better place because more women would have chosen to speak up, to challenge, and to bring progress, right? And diverse views to everything that's around them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mita. Petrina, your views, please, on the topic. In 10 years from now, what's your thoughts?
Definitely, I'd like to see more women leading organizations, rather than having to take the step back to manage the family. Why don't the men manage the family, right? If the woman is more than capable to run the business and the organizations. And in 10 years, I'll still be at my prime, so I like to contribute much more, and like what Dr. Sumitra said, we need to support other women, basically, and not bring them down, instead supporting them. If we think that they need some encouragement, we should step in. We should not have any biasness that women are weaker, women and just treat ourselves as equal. I need to remind myself that sometimes as well, that we are totally capable of doing what we want to do.
We all bring different things to the table, and that's not necessarily bound by the gender we are or where we start out in life. You have seen girls from really difficult backgrounds, and your enthusiasm and optimism to make, give them the room to be the best of themselves, I think is one of the reasons why I'm a big supporter of Go Girls. Where do you think 10 years from now, those girls who've graduated, how do you see them ruling the world, as we say?
I think one of the most important things that we're always imparting to young people, and I say young people here, both girls and boys, is to make sure that they co-opt each other. So girls with other girls and other boys, and boys co-opting other boys, also girls, so that this idea of what the future needs to be is shared. It's a common vision of everyone, both boys and girls, men and women. So Choose to Challenge isn't just a women agenda. It needs to be an agenda of every single person. And if everyone chooses to challenge the status quo, I think we will be there in less than 10 years if we choose. So it's really up to us.
I agree. Many years ago, as a handicapped person, I chose to pursue a career, to continue, notwithstanding all the difficulties, and I am much impassioned by what the future can bring with us. I am also incredibly inspired by the women who've been at the table with me in real life and virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an incredible pleasure and a great honor having these wonderful ladies on the panel today, sharing their views, their first-hand experiences to rise to the challenge of being a woman leader in these trying times instead. And to all the ladies out there, from me, and I think from all of us, we'd like to wish you a happy International Women's Day again. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have had an insightful session. We have come to the next part of our event, the launch of Goal 4.0. Goal is Standard Chartered Bank's award-winning global program that aims to empower adolescent girls through a combination of sports and life skills. Goal was launched globally in 2006 in India and to date has empowered more than 600,000 girls across our 20 over markets, including Malaysia, with the confidence, knowledge and skills they need to be integral economic leaders in their families, communities and societies. We partner with local NGO, Women Girls, to deliver Goal program in Malaysia. We are delighted with how the program has grown and progressed. Since we rolled out Goal program in Malaysia in August 2017, we have successfully reached over 7,000 girls in Klang Valley, Kuching, Ipoh, and Penang, with more than 260 of them has graduated and became Goal alumni upon completing 17 to 20 weeks of goal modules. This year, goal marks its 4th year, and today we want to celebrate the continuation of our goal journey with the aspiration to have higher number of REACH and goal graduates and bring positive changes to the community. With over 145 years under our belt as the first and oldest bank in Malaysia, we are convinced that gender equality is critical to economic growth and one of the most impactful ways to enable women and facilitate economic equality is to ensure equal access to education. With great pleasure, I now invite Mr. Abrar, MD and CEO of Standard Chartered Malaysia, Lau Nga Yuan, founder of Women Girls, our goal implementing partner, Ms. Dorina, our goal Exco champion for Malaysia, and to lead the launch. And to accompany them, Ms. Jennifer Kang, Country Head, Corporate Affairs, Brand and Marketing, Standard Chartered Malaysia, Ms. Jennifer Lopez, CEO of BMCC, Ms. Patrina Tang, founder, Ted Boy. Thank you. And we are all here on the count of 3, Abra, Dorina, and Yuan, and the launch shall commence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, my God. Ladies and gentlemen, Goal 4.0 is officially launched, and this marks the end of our session today. Thank you once again for tuning in, and please take care and stay safe. Happy International Women's Day. We choose to challenge.